plunge into a fog-choked London drawing room, where a single hushed word ignites a labyrinth of secrets so twisted, even Hercule Poirot's brilliant mind teeters on the edge of doubt. Welcome. Pour a cup of tea, settle in, and let this tale unravel. If it captivates you, subscribe to our channel. Your support keeps these stories alive. Chapter 1. The Invitation to Madness Picture. This, folks, it's a crisp autumn afternoon in 1930s London, the kind where the leaves crunch underfoot like forgotten clues, and the air carries the faint scent of rain mixed with chimney smoke. Our story begins not with a bang, but with a peculiar letter arriving at the doorstep of Hercule Poirot's elegant Whitehaven Mansions apartment. Poirot, that meticulous Belgian detective with his egg-shaped head, waxed moustache, and an unerring sense for the extraordinary, is sipping his tisane, that's herbal tea for those not in the know, when Hastings, his ever-loyal but somewhat bumbling companion, bursts in with the post. "Poirot, old chap," Hastings exclaims, his face flushed from the chill outside. "You've got an invitation here that sounds dashed mysterious. It's from a Lady Eleanor Voss up in the countryside. Says she needs your expertise urgently. Something about threads of delusion weaving through her family estate." Poirot sets down his cup with that signature precision, his green eyes twinkling like polished emeralds. "Ah, mon ami Hastings," he says in his accented English, which always sounds like it's been dipped in Belgian chocolate. "An invitation to delusion. Most intriguing. In my experience, delusions are but the mind's way of hiding the truth, no? Let us examine this missive." The letter, written on heavy cream paper, with a faint watermark of a spider's web, subtle but Poirot notices everything, is from Lady Eleanor, widow of the late Sir Reginald Voss, a textile magnate whose fortune was built on importing exotic silks and threads from the Orient. She pleads for Poirot's help at Voss Manor, a sprawling estate in the misty hills of Surrey, where strange events have unfolded. Guests at a recent weekend gathering have been plagued by vivid hallucinations, whispers in the night, and one man, a prominent psychiatrist named Dr. Harlan Crowe, has vanished without a trace. "The threads are unraveling," she writes cryptically, "and I fear murder is spun into the fabric." Intrigued? You should be. Poirot, never one to resist a puzzle that challenges the order of things, packs his valise with his favourite patent leather shoes and a few vials of his secret stomach remedies. After all, English country food can be a trial. Hastings, thrilled at the prospect of adventure, drives them down in his sporty little roadster, chattering all the way about how it reminds him of that time in Egypt with the Nile crocodile incident. But Poirot tunes him out, his mind already spinning theories like a loom. "Delusions, Hastings," he muses aloud as the manor comes into view, its Gothic towers piercing the grey sky like accusing fingers. "They are not random. They are crafted, perhaps by a hand that wishes to obscure the real crime." Upon arrival, they're greeted by the butler, a stoic fellow named Graves. Ironic name, don't you think? Who leads them into the grand hall. The place is a testament to the Voss family's wealth. Walls draped in shimmering tapestries woven from golden threads, Persian rugs that muffle every footstep, and chandeliers that cast dancing shadows like ghosts at a ball. Lady Eleanor, a striking woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and eyes haunted by worry, sweeps in wearing a gown that rustles like secrets. "Monsieur Poirot, thank heavens you've come," she says, her voice trembling just enough to hint at deeper fears. It all started 2 weeks ago during our annual silk symposium. We had experts from around the world, thread merchants, weavers, even a psychologist specializing in perceptual illusions. She guides them to the drawing room, where a fire crackles in the hearth, pushing back the chill. Over tea, Poirot insists on his own blend. Lady Eleanor lays out the details. The symposium was meant to celebrate Sir Reginald's legacy. But on the first night, guests reported odd occurrences. 1. A French silk trader named Monsieur Duval swore he saw spiders crawling from the wallpaper, their legs made of shimmering thread. Another, Miss Lydia Thorne, a young artist invited for her thread-based sculptures, heard voices whispering her deepest regrets, driving her to tears. And then there's Dr. Crow, the psychiatrist, who was there to lecture on how the mind can weave delusions from stress or suggestion. He disappeared after dinner, leaving behind only a single golden thread on his pillow, tied in a noose-like knot. Poirot leans forward, his fingers steepled. Madame, tell me of the guests who remain. Who might benefit from such chaos? Lady Eleanor lists them. Her son, Victor Voss, a playboy heir more interested in gambling than threads, who's been arguing with her over selling the estate. Then there's Amelia Crowe, the doctor's wife, a nervous woman with a habit of twisting her handkerchief like a skein of yarn. Professor Elias Reed, an eccentric academic studying ancient weaving myths, who claims the house is cursed by an old legend of a delusional spinner goddess. And finally the maid, young Bessie, who's been acting jumpy, as if she's hiding something in the servants' quarters. As Poirot absorbs this, he requests a tour of the manor. Hastings tags along, notebook in hand, jotting down observations like dusty attics, possible hiding spots. They start in the library, shelves lined with books on textiles and psychology, where Poirot spots a volume on hallucinogenic plants from the East. Perhaps a clue. See here, Hastings, he points out, this book on opium derivatives in silk dyes. Could someone be lacing the air or food with something to induce these visions? Hastings nods enthusiastically. By Jove, Poirot, that would explain the spiders and whispers. Moving to Dr. Crow's room, they find it untouched. Bed neatly made, except for that eerie golden thread. Poirot examines it under his magnifying glass. It's not ordinary silk, but something finer, almost iridescent, with a faint residue that smells faintly of almonds. Cyanide, Hastings gasps. Non, mon ami, Poirot corrects. But perhaps a hallucinogen. This thread is a message, a deliberate plant to weave fear. Dinner that evening is tense. The remaining guests gathered around a table laden with roast pheasant and claret. Victor Voss, handsome but dissipated, sneers at Poirot's questions. Delusions? Mother's just overwrought since father died. Probably the wind in the chimneys. Amelia Crowe, pale and fidgety, clutches her glass. Harlan was fine until he started, poking into the family's old secrets. Said something about threads of inheritance being tangled. Professor Reed, with his wild beard and spectacles, launches into a tale of Arachne, the mythical weaver turned spider by a jealous goddess, suggesting the house's tapestries hold a curse. Poirot observes them all, his little grey cells whirring. After dinner, as the group retires, he confides in Hastings by the fire. This is no mere haunting, my friend. Someone is pulling strings, literally, to create delusion and cover a motive, perhaps jealousy, greed, or revenge. Tomorrow we unravel the first knot, interviewing each suspect alone. The night deepens, and as Poirot settles into his guest room, A soft scratching echoes from the walls, like threads being spun. He smiles, faintly. The game begins, he murmurs. Little does he know, the threads of delusion are just starting to ensnare even him. And that's where we pause on the edge of discovery. Stick around for Chapter 2, where Poirot dives deeper into the suspects, secrets, uncovering lies that twist like silk in the wind. Chapter 2. The Weaving of Suspicions. The morning sun struggles through the heavy fog blanketing Vos Manor, casting a pale glow over the estate's ivy-clad walls. Hercule Poirot, immaculate in his tailored suit despite the early hour, stands at his window, twirling his moustache as he surveys the grounds. The air feels thick with secrets, as if the mist itself is conspiring to hide the truth. Over breakfast, poached eggs and toast, which Poirot inspects with suspicion for any trace of that almond-scented residue, Hastings whispers, "I say, Poirot, this place gives me the creeps. Did you hear that scratching again last night?" Poirot nods, his eyes sharp. "Oui, mon ami, but it is not the house that scratches. It is the mind of someone within it. Today, we interview our players in this curious drama." Poirot begins with Victor Vos, the heir, in the Manor's oak-panelled study. Victor lounges in a leather chair, a cigarette dangling from his lips, his eyes bloodshot from a late night. His silk tie, slightly askew, seems to mock the family's legacy. "Look, Monsieur Poirot," he says, exhaling smoke. "I don't care for Mother's hysterics or this old pile of stones. I'd sell it tomorrow if I could. Those hallucinations, probably just bad wine or Reed's ramblings about cursed threads." Poirot's gaze narrows. "Monsieur Vos, you speak of selling, yet your mother resists. And Dr. Crow, did he know of your plans?" Victor shifts uncomfortably, his fingers tightening on the armrest. "Crow was nosy, always asking about father's will. Said it was for his research on family dynamics. Rubbish, if you ask me." Poirot notes the defensiveness, the quick glance toward the door, and dismisses him with a polite smile, already filing away Victor's unease. Next, Poirot meets Amelia Crowe in the conservatory, where exotic plants bloom in riotous colours, their leaves brushing against the glass like whispered secrets. Amelia, dressed in a drab grey frock, twists her handkerchief, her eyes darting as if expecting her missing husband to appear. "Harlan was obsessed with the Vos family," she murmurs. "He said their wealth came from more than silk, something about a hidden deal, a secret woven into the estate's history. He was agitated that last night, muttering about threads, not being what they seemed." Poirot tilts his head. "Madame, did he share these secrets with anyone else? Perhaps the professor or young Bessie?" Amelia hesitates, her fingers shredding the handkerchief's edge. "He spoke to Bessie once, late in the servants' hall. I thought it odd. She's just a maid." Poirot's moustache twitches. A maid who knows too much, perhaps. The third interview is with Professor Elias Reed, who awaits Poirot in the library, surrounded by ancient tomes and a cluttered desk strewn with sketches of looms and mythical symbols. Reed's eyes gleam with fervour as he launches into a lecture. "Monsieur Poirot, the Vos tapestries are no mere decorations. They're woven with intent, inspired by Arachne's hubris. I believe they hold a psychic residue, amplifying the mind's fears into delusions." Poirot raises an eyebrow, unconvinced. "And yet, Professor, Dr. Crow's disappearance is no myth. Did you argue with him over this theory?" Reed adjusts his spectacles, flustered. "We debated, yes. He scoffed at my ideas, called them fanciful, but he was digging into the family's past, old journals, trade ledgers. He found something unsettling the night he vanished. Poirot presses further, but Reed clams up, muttering about needing to study a tapestry upstairs. Finally, Poirot seeks out Bessie, the maid, in the servants' quarters, a dim, narrow corridor smelling of polish and damp stone. Bessie, barely 20, with auburn curls escaping her cap, fidgets as she polishes silver. "I don't know nothing, sir," she says, her voice quivering. "I just clean and serve." Poirot's tone is gentle but firm. "Mademoiselle, Dr. Crowe spoke to you. What did he say?" Bessie's eyes well up. "He asked about the old loom in the attic, sir. Said it was important. Something about the threads used in the tapestries. I told him I didn't know, but he kept pressing, saying it could ruin the family." She pauses, glancing at the door. "Then I heard him arguing with someone outside his room that night. Angry voices, but I couldn't make out who." Poirot pats her hand, reassuring her, but his mind races. An attic loom, an argument. As the day wanes, Poirot and Hastings reconvene in the garden, where rose bushes stand like silent sentinels. Hastings scratches his head. "Dash it, Poirot. They're all hiding something, aren't they? Victor's greedy, Amelia's scared, Reed's off his rocker, and Bessie's terrified." Poirot nods, his gaze fixed on the manor's upper windows, where a curtain twitches. "Oui, Hastings, but the truth is like a thread in a tapestry. It hides in plain sight, woven among lies. Tonight we explore the attic. That loom may hold the key to Crowe's fate." Dinner passes quietly, the guests subdued, their glances darting like moths around a flame. Poirot excuses himself early, signalling Hastings to follow. Armed with a flashlight and his trusty magnifying glass, Poirot leads the way to the attic stairs, each creak echoing like a warning. The attic door is heavy, its lock rusted but recently oiled. Someone's been here. Inside, dust motes dance in the beam of light, revealing an ancient wooden loom, its frame carved with intricate spiders. A single thread, golden and shimmering, dangles from it, identical to the one found in Crowe's room. Poirot kneels, examining it closely. "Mon ami, this is no ordinary silk. It is treated perhaps with a substance to cloud the mind. But why? And by whom?" Before Hastings can reply, a shadow moves in the corner. A figure, cloaked in darkness, slips through a hidden panel in the wall. Poirot springs up, surprisingly spry, but the figure is gone, leaving only a faint echo of footsteps. "After them!" Hastings cries, but Poirot holds up a hand. "No, Hastings, we have disturbed the weaver's work. They will return, and we will be ready." As they descend, the manor feels alive, its walls humming with secrets. Poirot's eyes gleam with determination. "Tomorrow we tighten the net. Someone in this house is spinning a deadly web, and Hercule Poirot will cut the threads. Hold tight for Chapter 3, where the attic's secrets unravel further, and a surprising discovery turns the case upside down." Chapter 3. The Loom of Lies. The morning dawns grey over Voss Manor, the mist clinging to the windows like a shroud. Hercule Poirot, ever precise, adjusts his tie in the mirror, his mind already dissecting the previous night's discovery in the attic. The ancient loom, that golden thread, and the fleeting shadow, they point to a deliberate act, not mere chance, over a breakfast of croissants. Poirot insisted the cook prepare something less English. He murmurs to Hastings, "Mon ami, the loom is no relic. It is a tool, perhaps of deception, perhaps of danger. Today, We seek the hand that works. It. Poirot decides to confront the physical evidence first, returning to the attic with Hastings in tow. The air up there is thick with dust, the loom looming like a silent conspirator. Poirot examines its frame, his gloved fingers tracing the carved spiders, their eyes glinting with inlaid amber. "Curious, Hastings," he says, pointing to a hidden compartment beneath the shuttle. Inside, they find a small vial, half filled, with a clear liquid that smells faintly of almonds. Not cyanide, but something subtler. A distillate, perhaps, Poirot muses, pocketing it for later analysis. He notices fresh scratches on the floor near the hidden panel where the shadow vanished. Someone moves through these walls, mon ami, like a spider in its web. Their search is interrupted by a scream from below. Racing downstairs, they find Bessie in the servants' hall, clutching a torn scrap of fabric, a piece of Dr. Crow's tweed jacket, stained with what looks like dried blood. "I found it in the laundry chute, sir," she gasps, her face pale. "It wasn't there yesterday." Poirot's eyes narrow as he inspects the cloth, noting its frayed edges and a single golden thread caught in the weave. "Madame Eleanor," he calls, summoning the lady of the house. "This chute, where does it lead?" Eleanor, her composure fraying, points to a trap door in the basement. "It's for linens, but no one's used it since the staff was reduced." Poirot and Hastings descend into the basement, a damp labyrinth of stone walls and cobwebs. The chute empties into a rusted bin, but nearby, a loose flagstone reveals a hidden nook containing a bundle of papers, Dr. Crow's notes, scrawled in frantic handwriting. They detail his research into the Voss family's trade secrets, hinting at a rare silk from a remote Chinese valley, infused with a plant extract known to induce vivid hallucinations. "He was close to something dangerous," Poirot says, scanning the pages. "These notes mention a contract, a deal that enriched the Vosses but cost others dearly." Back in the drawing room, Poirot gathers the guests, holding up the torn fabric. Victor Voss scoffs. Crow probably tore his jacket and wandered off. He was half mad himself. But Amelia Crow's hands tremble as she stares at the stain. "That's Harlan's," she whispers. "He wouldn't leave without telling me." Professor Reed, peering over his spectacles, mutters about the curse of Arachne again, but Poirot cuts him off. "Enough of myths, Professor. This blood is real, and so is the danger. Madame Amelia, did your husband mention this contract?" She shakes her head, but her eyes flicker toward Victor, who looks away. Sensing tension, Poirot shifts tactics, asking to see the manor's oldest tapestries, stored in a locked gallery. Eleanor hesitates but leads them to a chamber where massive weavings hang, their colours vibrant despite their age. One depicts a woman spinning at a loom, surrounded by spiders, her face twisted in anguish. Poirot notices a faint seam along its edge, and with Eleanor's reluctant permission, he carefully cuts it open. Hidden inside is a ledger, its pages, yellowed but legible, detailing shipments of the rare silk from 1890, alongside payments to an unnamed partner in Shanghai. "This," Poirot declares, "is the thread that binds our mystery. Someone fears its exposure." As evening falls, Poirot and Hastings retreat to the library to study the ledger. Hastings, flipping through it, exclaims, "Good Lord, Poirot, these sums are enormous. And look, there's a name scratched out, but it starts with a C. Could it be Crow?" Poirot shakes his head. "Non, Hastings. This is older, from Sir Reginald's time. But Dr. Crow uncovered it, and someone wished to silence him." A noise at the door makes them turn. Bessie, lingering, her apron twisted in her hands. "Sir, I remembered something," she says softly. "Dr. Crow asked me about a locked chest in the attic near the loom. I didn't tell him, but I think Victor has the key." Poirot's eyes gleam. "Merci, mademoiselle. You have been most helpful." As Bessie scurries off, he turns to Hastings. "The net tightens, mon ami. Tonight we watch Victor Voss. If he moves to that chest, we will catch him in the act." Under the cover of darkness, Poirot and Hastings position themselves near the attic stairs, hidden in the shadows. The manor creaks, its silence heavy with anticipation. At midnight, a figure creeps upward, a key glinting in their hand. But as Poirot steps forward, ready to pounce, a crash echoes from the gallery below, followed by a woman's cry. The figure bolts, and Poirot curses under his breath. "Vite, Hastings! The web is unraveling, but the spider is clever." Chapter 4 awaits, where a shocking revelation in the gallery spins the mystery in a new direction, and Poirot's little grey cells face their toughest test yet. Chapter 4. The Torn Tapestry. The crash from the gallery shatters the midnight silence of Voss Manor, pulling Hercule Poirot and Hastings from their vigil by the attic stairs. Poirot, his face taut with focus, hurries down the winding staircase, his polished shoes clicking on the oak steps. Hastings stumbles behind, muttering, "Dash it, Poirot, what now?" That cry sounded like Lady Eleanor. The air grows colder as they near the gallery, where the heavy door stands ajar, moonlight spilling across the floor like spilled ink. Inside, the scene is chaos. A massive tapestry, the one depicting the anguished spinner, lies torn from its frame, its threads splayed across the floor like a broken web. Lady Eleanor stands trembling, a candelabra in her hand, her face ashen. "It moved," she whispers. "I saw it move, Monsieur Poirot, as if alive." Poirot kneels beside the ruined tapestry, his magnifying glass catching the glint of moonlight. The tear is jagged, not cut, as if ripped in a frenzy. Among the threads, he spots another golden strand, shimmering with that faint almond scent. "Madame," he says, his voice calm but probing, "you came here alone at this hour. Why?" Eleanor's eyes dart to the shadows. "I couldn't sleep. I felt something calling me here, like a pull. Then I saw a figure, cloaked, tearing at the tapestry before they fled." Hastings, peering into the darkened corners, grips his flashlight tighter. A figure again? This place is crawling with ghosts. Poirot dismisses the supernatural with a wave. "None, Hastings. No ghosts. Only human hands tear tapestries and weave fear." He examines the floor, noticing scuff marks leading to a side door that opens to a narrow servant's passage. Following it, they emerge near the kitchen, where a single candle burns low. Bessie, wide-eyed, is scrubbing pots, though the hour is late. "Mademoiselle," Poirot says softly, "you are awake when others sleep. Did you see anyone pass this way?" Bessie shakes her head too quickly, her hands trembling. "No, sir. I was just cleaning." Poirot notes her unease, but lets it pass. For now. Returning to the gallery, Poirot inspects the torn tapestry's remnants. Hidden in its backing, he finds a small sealed envelope, its wax stamped with a spider emblem. Inside is a letter, dated a decade ago, from Sir Reginald Voss to an unknown recipient. It speaks of a debt repaid in silk, promising silence, about a scandal in exchange for continued shipments of the rare hallucinogenic thread. "Mon ami," Poirot says to Hastings, This is no mere business deal. It is blackmail, woven into the very fabric of this house. Hastings frowns. But who's behind it now? Crow's gone, and this letter's old. Poirot's next move is to confront Victor Voss, suspecting his key to the attic chest holds answers. They find him in the billiard room, nursing a brandy, his face flushed with irritation. "What's this nonsense about tapestries?" he snaps. "I was in my room all night." Poirot holds up the envelope, watching Victor's reaction. "Monsieur, your father's secrets are unraveling. Did Dr. Crow know of this letter? Did he threaten to expose you?" Victor's hand tightens on his glass, but he laughs it off. Crow was a meddler, nothing more. "I don't know about any letter." Sensing a wall, Poirot shifts to Amelia Crow, finding her in the conservatory, staring at the moonlit orchids. Her voice is barely a whisper. "Harlan found something. In the library, old letters, he said, about a deal that stained the Voss name. He told me it could ruin them." Poirot presses gently. "And did he share this with Victor or the professor?" Amelia's eyes flicker. "He mentioned Reed, said he was too obsessed with myths to see the real crime." Poirot nods, filing away her words. As noon approaches, Poirot visits Professor Reed in his makeshift study, where he's sketching the torn tapestry's design. "Monsieur Poirot," Reed says, his voice feverish, "this damage is no accident. The spinner in the tapestry, she's a warning, a symbol of vengeance. Someone wants her story silenced." Poirot raises an eyebrow. "Or perhaps, Professor, someone uses your myths to distract from a modern crime. Did you see anyone in the gallery last night?" Reed hesitates, then admits, "I passed by earlier, but I saw nothing. Only, I heard footsteps, light ones, like a woman's." The day's discoveries swirl in Poirot's mind as he and Hastings walk the manor's grounds, the fog lifting to reveal gnarled trees like twisted threads. "Hastings," Poirot says. "The letter and the tapestry point to a past wrong, but the present danger is alive. Someone destroys evidence, perhaps to protect the Voss fortune, or to hide a murder." Hastings scratches his head. "But who, Poirot? Victor's shifty, Amelia's hiding something, Reed's mad as a hatter, and Bessie's scared stiff." As dusk settles, Poirot requests a private word with Lady Eleanor in her study. She sits rigidly, her hands clasped. "Madame," he says, "this letter implicates your late husband in a dark bargain. Did Dr. Crow confront you about it?" Eleanor's lips tighten. "He asked questions, yes, about our silk sources. I told him it was business, nothing more." But her eyes betray a flicker of fear, and Poirot senses she knows more than she admits. That night, as the manor quiets, Poirot sets a trap. He leaves, a note in the gallery, hinting he's found the chest's key, and hides with Hastings behind a curtain. Hours pass, then soft footsteps approach. A figure in a hooded cloak bends over the torn tapestry, searching frantically. Poirot steps forward, but a sudden gust from an open window snuffs their candle, plunging the room into darkness. When they relight it, the figure is gone, leaving only a single golden thread on the floor. Poirot's eyes gleam with resolve. The spider weaves carefully, Hastings, but they cannot escape forever. Tomorrow, we open that chest. Chapter 5 beckons, where the attic chest reveals a chilling truth, and Poirot's trap catches an unexpected player in this deadly game. Chapter 5 The Chest of Secrets. The dawn breaks over Voss Manor with a chill that seeps into the bones, the fog curling around the estate like a living thing. Hercule Poirot, undeterred by the previous night's elusive figure, sips his morning tisane in the dining room, his eyes sharp as ever. Hastings, nursing a cup of tea, looks bleary-eyed. Poirot, that cloaked figure vanished like a phantom. Are we chasing shadows? Poirot's moustache twitches. Non, mon ami. Shadows do not leave threads. The chest in the attic holds the key to this mystery, and today we unlock it. Determined to secure the attic chest's contents, Poirot enlists Hastings to fetch Victor Voss, suspecting he carries the key. They find Victor in the stables, brushing down a horse with a scowl. Monsieur Voss, Poirot says, his voice smooth but firm. You have a key to an attic chest. We must open it. Victor's jaw tightens, his hand slipping into his pocket as if to guard something. I don't know what you're on about, he snaps, but his eyes betray panic. Poirot, ever observant, notes the bulge of a key-shaped object beneath Victor's waistcoat. With a nod to Hastings, who blocks the stable door, Poirot presses, "Refusal only deepens suspicion, monsieur. Shall we go together?" Grudgingly, Victor follows, muttering about meddling foreigners. In the attic, the air is heavy with dust and secrets. The loom looms silently, its carved spiders seeming to watch. Victor unlocks the chest, a heavy, iron-bound relic, with a key that trembles in his hand. Inside, they find a trove of documents, letters, receipts, and a small journal bound in faded silk. Poirot's gloved hands leaf through the journal, its pages revealing Sir Reginald Voss's private dealings. It describes a partnership with a Chinese merchant, Li Wei, who supplied the hallucinogenic silk in exchange for smuggled artifacts from British colonies. A deal that skirted legality and morality. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmurs, this is no mere trade. It is a pact of greed, and Dr. Crowe stumbled upon it. Hastings, peering over Poirot's shoulder, points to a recent entry in a different hand, Dr. Crowe's. It notes a confrontation with an unnamed Voss family member, warning of exposure unless the truth about the silk's origins was revealed. Crowe was blackmailing someone, Hastings exclaims. Poirot nods. Or he was seeking justice, but this journal makes him a threat and a target. Their discovery is cut short by a clatter from the servants' stairs. Bessie appears, her apron smeared with flour, her face flushed. Sir, I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I saw Mrs. Crowe, Amelia, sneaking about the attic last night after you left the gallery. She was holding something like a book or papers. Poirot's eyes narrow. Merci, Bessie. Your observations are most valuable. He dismisses her gently, but his mind races. Amelia, with her nervous demeanour, now seems less a victim and more a player in this tangled web. Poirot decides to confront Amelia in the conservatory, where she sits among the orchids, her hands twisting a silk scarf. Madame Crowe, he begins, holding up the journal, your husband uncovered a dangerous truth. Did you know of his plans to expose the Voss family? Amelia's face crumples, tears spilling. Harlan told me bits about the silk, the smuggling. He said it could ruin us all if it came out. I begged him to stop, but he was stubborn. She pauses, her voice dropping. Last night I went to the attic to find his notes. I thought if I could destroy them, this would end. Poirot leans forward. And did you see the cloaked figure? Amelia shakes her head, but her eyes flicker with something unspoken. Sensing half-truths, Poirot shifts focus to Professor Reed, tracking him down in the library, where he's hunched over a sketch of the loom's carvings. Professor, Poirot says, you spoke of myths, but this journal speaks of crimes. Did Dr. Crowe share his findings with you? Reed adjusts his spectacles, his hands unsteady. He showed me a letter once about the silk's origins. I told him it fit the Arachne myth, a weaver's hubris punished. But he laughed, said I was blind to the real scandal. Poirot notes Reed's evasiveness, wondering if his obsession masks a deeper involvement. As evening cloaks the manor, Poirot and Hastings retire to the study to piece together the clues. The journal, the torn tapestry, the golden threads, all point to a cover-up. But the motive for Crow's disappearance remains elusive. Hastings, Poirot says, someone in this house is desperate to bury the past, and they use delusion to confuse us. But the little grey cells, they do not falter. A sudden knock interrupts them. Lady Eleanor, her face pale, clutching a note slipped under her door. It reads, "Stop digging, or the threads will choke you." The handwriting is shaky, but a faint golden thread is tied around it. Poirot's eyes gleam with determination. This is no idle threat, mon ami. It is a challenge. Tomorrow, we search the servants' passage near the gallery. Our spider cannot hide forever. Chapter 6 looms, where a hidden passage reveals a grim discovery, and Poirot's pursuit of the truth draws him closer to danger. Chapter 6. The Passage of Peril. The morning light filters weakly through Voss Manor's tall windows, casting long shadows that twist across the stone floors like threads of doubt. Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably groomed despite the early hour, stands in the grand hall, studying the threatening note with its ominous golden thread. Hastings, pacing nearby, fidgets with his tie. Poirot, that note's a nasty piece of work. Whoever wrote it means business. Are we getting too close? Poirot's green eyes flicker with resolve. Oui, mon ami, we are close indeed. The spider feels the tremor in its web. Today, we explore the servants' passage near the gallery. It holds secrets, I am certain. Armed with a flashlight and his trusty magnifying glass, Poirot leads Hastings to the narrow door off the gallery, its hinges creaking as they enter the cramped passage. The air is stale, thick with the scent of mildew and something sharper, perhaps the faint almond trace of the mysterious substance. The passage snakes behind the manor's walls, its rough stone brushing their shoulders. Poirot moves with purpose, his light catching glints of cobwebs and scuff marks on the floor. "See here, Hastings," he whispers, pointing to a faint trail of dust disturbed by recent footsteps. "Our cloaked figure uses this route to move unseen." The passage splits, one path descending toward the kitchen, the other climbing toward the upper floors. Poirot chooses the upward path, his steps silent but deliberate. At a sharp turn, they find a small alcove, barely noticeable, with a loose panel in the wall. Pushing it aside, Poirot reveals a hidden nook containing a bundle of cloth. Another piece of Dr. Crow's tweed jacket, this time crusted with dried mud and a smear of what could be blood. Hastings gasps. "Good Lord, Poirot, this looks grim. Is Crow—" Poirot shakes his head, his voice steady. "Not yet, Hastings. This is a message, meant to frighten or mislead, but it tells us our quarry is near." As they examine the cloth, a faint scratching echoes from deeper in the passage. Poirot signals for silence, his light sweeping the shadows. The sound grows louder, rhythmic, like fingers tapping on wood. They creep forward, emerging into a dusty closet near the attic stairs. There, tucked behind a stack of crates, is a trapdoor, its edges freshly scraped as if recently opened. Poirot lifts it carefully, revealing a ladder descending into darkness. "Mon ami," he says, "we descend into the heart of the web. Stay close." The ladder leads to a forgotten cellar beneath the manor, its walls lined with old wine barrels and crates of discarded textiles. The air is heavy, the almond scent stronger now. Poirot's light catches a glint, another golden thread draped across a crate like a marker. Behind it, they find a small wooden box, locked but with fresh scratches around the keyhole. Forcing it open, Poirot uncovers a vial of the same clear liquid from the attic, alongside a photograph of a younger Sir Reginald Voss shaking hands with a stern-faced man in Chinese robes. Li Wei, the merchant from the journal. A note scribbled on the back reads, "Payment due. Silence or ruin." Hastings whistles softly. This is it, Poirot, the proof of the smuggling deal. But who's hiding it now? Poirot's eyes narrow. Someone who knows the manners. Secrets, Hastings. Someone who moves like a shadow. Their discovery is cut short by a sudden thud above, followed by footsteps racing away. Poirot scrambles up the ladder, but the closet is empty, the trapdoors dust undisturbed except for their own tracks. Back in the grand hall, Poirot gathers the guests, his demeanour calm but commanding. He holds up the photograph, watching their faces. Lady Eleanor's hands tremble, but she says nothing. Victor Voss smirks. Old family photos? Hardly a crime. Amelia Crowe stares at the image, her lips parting as if to speak, then clamps them shut. Professor Reed, adjusting his spectacles, mutters, "That's Li Wei. I read about him in the trade ledgers. Dangerous man." Poirot nods, noting each reaction. "This photograph," he says, "links the past to the present. Dr. Crowe found it, and someone wished to bury it." Seeking more answers, Poirot questions Bessie in the kitchen, where she's peeling potatoes with shaky hands. "Mademoiselle, you know these passages well. Have you seen anyone near the attic or cellar?" Bessie's eyes dart to the door. I saw Mr. Victor coming from the servants' stairs once, late at night. He looked angry, sir, but I didn't ask why." Poirot pats her shoulder, his mind cataloguing her fear. As dusk falls, Poirot and Hastings review their findings in the study. The photograph, the vial, the journal, all point to a legacy of deceit that Dr. Crowe threatened to expose. "Hastings," Poirot says, "the cellar is a hiding place but also a stage. Our spider uses it to conceal evidence, and perhaps a victim." A sudden chill runs through the room as a window rattles, and Poirot notices a faint scratch mark on the sill, as if something was dragged through. Determined to catch the culprit, Poirot sets another trap. He spreads word among the staff that he's found Dr. Crowe's final notes and will reveal them at midnight in the cellar. As the hour approaches, he and Hastings hide behind the wine barrels, their breaths shallow in the dark. Footsteps echo. Single figure descends, cloaked, holding a small knife that glints in the moonlight. Poirot steps forward, his voice sharp. "Show yourself!" The figure freezes, then bolts up the ladder, leaving behind a dropped object, a silk glove, embroidered with a spider. Poirot picks it up, his eyes blazing. "The web tightens, Hastings. This glove belongs to our spider, and tomorrow we name them." Chapter 7 awaits, where the silk glove leads to a startling confrontation, and Poirot's deductions bring the truth dangerously close. Chapter 7. The Spider's Glove. The morning mist clings to Voss Manor like a veil, muffling the world outside as Hercule Poirot holds the silk glove aloft in the study, its delicate spider embroidery catching the dim light. Hastings, leaning over the desk, scratches his head. Poirot, that glove's a clue, but whose hand fits it? It's too small for Victor, surely. Poirot's eyes gleam, his fingers tracing the stitching. Mon ami, the glove is not just a clue, it is a taunt. Our spider grows careless, and today we shall expose their weave. Poirot begins by examining the glove closely, noting its fine silk and faint almond scent, matching the mysterious threads scattered throughout the manor. He summons the household to the drawing room, where a fire crackles, casting flickering shadows on the tapestries. Holding the glove, he addresses the group. Mesdames et messieurs, this was dropped last night in the cellar by one who flees the truth. Who among you claims it? Lady Eleanor's face pales, her hands clasping tightly. Victor Voss snorts. Looks like a woman's glove, mother's perhaps. Eleanor shakes her head sharply. Amelia Crowe stares at the floor, her fingers twisting her scarf. Professor Reed, peering through his spectacles, says nothing, but his eyes linger on the glove's design. Sensing evasion, Poirot shifts tactics, focusing on Amelia. He finds her alone in the conservatory, surrounded by the heavy scent of orchids. Madame, he says gently, this glove, does it belong to you? You were seen near the attic, searching for your husband's notes. Amelia's eyes widen, her voice trembling. I've never seen it, Monsieur Poirot. I swear, I only wanted Harlan's papers to protect his reputation. He was so deep into the Voss secrets, I feared he'd crossed someone dangerous. Poirot notes her sincerity but presses. And who might that be? Victor, perhaps, with his key to the chest. Amelia hesitates, then whispers, Victor was furious with Harlan. I heard them arguing the night he vanished, something about money and betrayal. Poirot next seeks Victor in the billiard room, where he's racking balls with a scowl. Monsieur, Voss, Poirot says, holding up the glove. You argued with Dr. Crowe. Did you drop this in your haste to silence him? Victor slams his cue down. That's nonsense. I don't wear women's gloves, and I didn't touch Crowe. He was poking into father's business, stirring up trouble. Good riddance, I say. His defiance rings hollow, and Poirot notices a slight tremble in his hand, as if hiding a deeper fear. Turning to Professor Reed, Poirot finds him in the library, sketching the spider motif from the glove. Professor, Poirot begins. You recognize this design, non? It matches the tapestries you study so closely. Reed adjusts his glasses, his voice low. It's an old pattern, from the Voss family's earliest weavings, inspired by Arachne's myth. But I've no glove like that. Crowe was reckless, digging into things best left buried. Poirot's eyes narrow. And did you help bury them? Monsieur? Reed flushes, stammering. I'm a scholar, not a criminal. Bessie, the maid, is next, found polishing silver in the servants' hall. Poirot shows her the glove, watching her closely. Mademoiselle, you move unseen through this house. Have you seen this glove before? Bessie's hands shake, dropping a spoon. No, sir, but I found a pair like it in Mrs. Crowe's room when I cleaned last week. I thought they were hers. Her voice falters, as if regretting her words. Poirot pats her arm, reassuring her, but his mind races. Amelia, again at the centre of the web. As noon approaches, Poirot and Hastings retreat to the garden, where the fog has lifted, revealing twisted oaks like skeletal hands. Hastings, Poirot says. The glove points to Amelia, yet her fear seems genuine. Victor's anger, Reed's obsession, Eleanor's silence, all are threads, but the pattern is unclear. Hastings frowns. What about Bessie? She's always popping up, nervous as a cat. Poirot nods. Oui, she sees more than she says. We must watch her. That afternoon, Poirot inspects Amelia's room with her reluctant permission. Among her belongings, he finds a sewing kit with golden thread identical to the mysterious strands. No second glove, but a torn silk scarf bears the same spider motif. Curious, Poirot murmurs. A clue planted perhaps to mislead. He questions Amelia again, who insists the thread isn't hers. Harlan brought it from the attic, she says. Said it was evidence of the Vosses' crimes. As night falls, Poirot sets a new trap, spreading word that he's identified the glove's owner and will confront them at midnight in the library. He and Hastings hide behind a bookcase, the room lit only by a single lamp. At the stroke of 12, a figure slips in, not cloaked this time, but hesitant, their silhouette familiar. Poirot steps forward, his voice cutting through the silence. Enough hiding. Show yourself and explain the glove. The figure gasps, dropping a small vial that shatters, releasing a faint almond scent. Before Poirot can act, they flee, the library door slamming shut. Poirot kneels by the vial, his face grim. The spider is desperate, Hastings. This vial matches the others, a tool of delusion. Tomorrow, we unravel the final knot. Chapter 8 beckons, where the shattered vial leads to a dramatic accusation, and Poirot's little grey cells close in on the heart of the mystery. Chapter 8 The Shattered Truth. The dawn at Voss Manor is heavy with foreboding, the sky a bruised purple that mirrors the tension within its walls. Hercule Poirot stands in the library, where the shattered vial from the previous night lies in, a glittering heap, its almond-scented residue lingering like a ghost. He adjusts his cufflinks, his face a mask of concentration, though his green eyes burn with the thrill of the chase. Hastings, bleary from their late-night vigil, rubs his eyes and mutters, "Poirot, that figure got away again. But that vial, it's the same stuff, isn't it? The stuff making people see spiders and hear whispers." Poirot nods, his voice low but resolute. "Oui, mon ami, this vial is the venom of our spider's web, a tool to weave delusion. But its breaking was no accident. It was a moment of panic. Today, we name the hand that dropped it." Poirot begins the day by analysing the vial's fragments, carefully collecting them with gloved hands into a small envelope. The faint almond scent confirms his suspicions. A hallucinogenic distillate, likely derived from the rare silk's plant source, as noted in Dr. Crow's journal. He recalls the golden threads, the torn tapestry, the silk glove, all pieces of a puzzle pointing to a calculated effort to obscure a crime. "Hastings," he says, pacing the library's Persian rug. "The spider uses this substance to cloud minds, to make witnesses doubt their senses. But why? To hide Dr. Crow's fate or something deeper?" Hastings, clutching a cup of tea, ventures, "Maybe Crow's alive, hidden somewhere, and they're keeping him quiet with this stuff." Poirot's moustache twitches. "Possible, mon ami. Or he is a victim, and the delusion hides a murder." Determined to trace the figure from the library, Poirot examines the room's exits. The door they fled through leads to a back staircase, its steps worn and dusty, but a single footprint, small, delicate, marks the dust. "A woman's shoe," Poirot murmurs, "or a man with small feet, perhaps to mislead." He follows, the trail to a landing near the servants' quarters, where a faint scratch on the wall catches his eye, a mark like those near the attic's hidden panel. Our spider knows the manor's veins, he says, and they move with purpose. Poirot gathers the household in the grand hall, the air thick with unease. Lady Eleanor stands by the fireplace, her silver hair catching the light like spun silk. Victor Voss leans against a pillar, his face a mix of defiance and fatigue. Amelia Crowe sits stiffly, her hands twisting a handkerchief, while Professor Reed hovers near a tapestry, muttering about mythic patterns. Bessie, summoned from the kitchen, lingers at the edge, her apron clutched tightly. Poirot holds up the envelope of vial fragments, his voice commanding. Mesdames et messieurs, last night one of you entered the library carrying this, a tool of deception. You fled, but not before leaving a trace. Who will confess? Victor scoffs, lighting a cigarette. More theatrics, Poirot. That could be anyone's. This house is falling apart. Broken glass is hardly a crime. Eleanor's lips tighten, but she says nothing, her eyes fixed on the floor. Amelia's voice trembles as she speaks. I wasn't in the library, Monsieur Poirot. I swear it. I've been in my room, praying for Harlan's return. Reed adjusts his spectacles, his tone academic. That scent, almond-like. It matches the silk's properties I studied. Perhaps it's from the old looms, not a person. Bessie, barely audible, whispers, I didn't see nothing, sir. Poirot's gaze lingers on each, noting Victor's bravado, Eleanor's silence, Amelia's fear, Reed's deflection, and Bessie's shrinking posture. Sensing the truth lies in action, Poirot shifts to a bold move. He requests Lady Eleanor's permission to search the servants' quarters, suspecting Bessie's nervousness hides more than fear. Eleanor agrees, though her hands tremble as she hands over the master key. In Bessie's small room, tucked under a loose floorboard, Poirot finds a hidden cache, a bundle of golden threads, a vial of the clear liquid, and a letter addressed to Dr. Crowe, unsigned but in a looping script. It reads, Cease your inquiries, or the threads will bind you forever. The handwriting matches the threatening note slipped under Eleanor's door. Mon Dieu, Poirot breathes. Bessie is no mere bystander. She is entangled, willingly or not. Confronting Bessie in the kitchen, Poirot holds up the letter, his tone gentle but unyielding. Mademoiselle, you have hidden much. This letter, did you write it, or do you protect another? Bessie's face crumples, tears spilling. I didn't write it, sir. I found it in the laundry near Dr. Crowe's things. I was scared. Someone told me to keep quiet, or I'd lose my place here. Poirot presses. Who, Bessie? Who threatens? You, she sobs. I can't say, sir. They'll hurt me. Before Poirot can coax more, a crash echoes from the hall, glass shattering, followed by a muffled cry. Racing to the source, Poirot and Hastings find the grand hall's chandelier, in pieces on the floor, its crystals scattered like stars. Above, a rope dangles, cut cleanly, as if someone tampered with it. Victor storms in, cursing. This blasted house, first tapestries, now chandeliers. But Poirot's eyes are on the rope's frayed end, where a single golden thread clings. This was no accident, he says. Someone seeks to warn, or to kill. Poirot questions Eleanor privately in her study, where she sits by a portrait of Sir Reginald, her face drawn. Madame, he says, the chandelier, the threats, the vial, all protect a secret tied to your husband's dealings. Did you know of the smuggling, the silk's dark origins? Eleanor's hands clench. Reginald kept his business private. I knew of the silk's value, but not its effects. Crow asked too many questions, stirred old wounds. Her voice cracks, hinting at guilt or fear. As night falls, Poirot and Hastings strategize in the study. Hastings, Poirot says, Bessie is a pawn, but the hand moving her is cunning. The chandelier was a desperate act, meant to scare us off. We must act swiftly. He devises a final trap. He announces to the household that he's found Dr. Crow's body in the cellar, a lie to flush out the culprit. At midnight, he and Hastings wait in the darkened cellar, hidden among the crates. Footsteps descend, slow and cautious. A figure appears, not cloaked, but familiar, clutching a lantern and a small knife. Poirot leaps forward, his voice like steel. "Stop! The game is over!" The figure gasps, the lantern clattering to the floor, revealing a face that shocks even Poirot. Chapter 9 awaits, where the revealed figure unveils a motive that twists the mystery into its final deadly knot, and Poirot's deductions face their ultimate test. Chapter 9. The face in the lantern's light. The cellar's darkness presses in like a living thing. The air thick with the scent of damp stone and that ever-present almond trace. Hercule Poirot, hidden behind a stack of crates, holds his breath. As the lantern's glow reveals the figure's face, Lady Eleanor Voss herself, her silver hair glinting, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and defiance. The knife in her hand trembles, its blade catching the light, as she stares at the spot where Poirot claimed to have found Dr. Crow's body. Hastings, crouched beside Poirot, stifles a gasp. Poirot steps forward, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "Madame Voss, the charade ends. Why do you come here armed, seeking a man who is not dead? At least, not yet." Eleanor's lantern clatters to the floor, its flame flickering but not dying. She drops the knife, her hands rising to her face. "Monsieur Poirot," she whispers, "I didn't mean harm. I thought you'd found him, and I had to know." Her voice cracks, but Poirot's gaze is unrelenting. "Know what, madame? That Dr. Crow lives, hidden by your hand, or that his discoveries threaten your family's legacy?" Eleanor sinks onto a crate, her composure unraveling like a frayed thread. "It's not what you think," she says, her eyes pleading. "I was protecting Victor, protecting the Voss name." Poirot signals Hastings to retrieve the knife, keeping his focus on Eleanor. "Explain, madame. The golden threads, the vials, the torn tapestry, all point to a secret you guard. Speak, or the truth will be less kind." Eleanor takes a shaky breath, her story spilling out. She reveals that Dr. Crow had confronted her days before his disappearance, claiming he'd uncovered proof of Sir Reginald's smuggling operation with Li Wei, a deal that not only brought wealth but also shame, as the hallucinogenic silk had caused harm to weavers and buyers alike. Crow threatened to publish his findings, which would ruin the Voss fortune and Victor's inheritance. "I begged him to stop," Eleanor says, tears streaking her face. "He wouldn't listen. That night, I gave him a sedative, mixed, in his wine, to calm him. I meant to reason with him later, but he vanished." Hastings, clutching the knife, exclaims, "Vanished? You mean you hid him?" Poirot raises a hand, silencing him. "Madame, where is Dr. Crow now? And the glove, the vial, the threats? Who weaves this web of delusion?" Eleanor shakes her head. "I don't know about the glove or the vial in the library. I swear, I only hid Harlan in the old gardener's cottage beyond the grounds, thinking he'd wake and we could talk. But when I checked, he was gone, and I found only his jacket. torn and stained. Poirot's eyes narrow, his mind racing. "The cottage, madame. Take us there now." Eleanor leads them through the manor's back door, across the fog-draped lawn to a small, ivy-covered cottage hidden among twisted oaks. Inside, the air is musty, the furniture draped in dust sheets. A cot in the corner bears signs of recent use, rumpled blankets, a half-empty water glass, but no Crow. Poirot examines the floor, finding faint traces of mud and a single golden thread. "He was here," Poirot murmurs, "but someone moved him." And recently, returning to the manor, Poirot questions Amelia Crow, finding her in the conservatory, her face pale as moonlight. "Madame," he says, showing her the thread from the cottage, "your husband was hidden, perhaps alive. Did you know of this cottage?" Amelia's hands tremble, her voice barely audible. "Harlan mentioned it once, said it was a place to think. I looked there after he vanished, but it was empty." Her eyes dart away, and Poirot senses she's holding back. "And the glove, madame? Bessie found its twin in your room." Amelia gasps. "I told you it's not mine. Someone must have placed it there." Poirot next seeks Victor in the billiard room, where he's nursing a whiskey, his face haggard. "Monsieur Voss," Poirot says, "your mother hid Dr. Crow to protect you. Did you know of this, or did you act to silence him yourself?" Victor slams his glass down. "Mother's mad if she thinks I need protecting. Crow was a nuisance, yes, but I didn't touch him. I've been trying to sell this cursed estate, not hide bodies." His anger seems genuine, but Poirot notes a flicker of fear in his eyes. Professor Reed, found sketching in the library, offers little clarity. "The cottage," he muses. "I've seen it from afar but never entered." Crow's obsession with the silk's origins was dangerous, though. He stirred up ghosts. Poirot dismisses his metaphors, focusing on Bessie next. In the kitchen, she's scrubbing dishes, her hands shaking. "Mademoiselle," Poirot says gently, "you knew of the cottage, oui? Did you see Dr. Crow there?" Bessie's eyes well up. I took food there once, on Lady Eleanor's orders. He was sleeping, sir, but alive. Then he was gone, and she told me to say nothing." As night deepens, Poirot and Hastings retreat to the study, the weight of the case pressing heavy. "Hastings," Poirot says, "Eleanor hid Crow, but someone else moved him. The glove, the vial, the chandelier. These are the work of another, perhaps to frame her or to distract us." A sudden creak from the hall makes them turn. A shadow flits past the door, and Poirot springs up, chasing it to the gallery, where a tapestry sways as if touched. Beneath it lies a small key, etched with a spider. "The attic chest again," Poirot breathes. "Our spider is circling Hastings, and they are desperate." Chapter 10 awaits, where Poirot sets a final trap to unmask the true spider, and the mystery of Dr. Crow's fate unravels in a shocking revelation. Chapter 10 The web unravelled, the night at Voss Manor is as dark as ink, the air heavy with the promise of truth or danger. Hercule Poirot stands in the grand hall, the spider-etched key from the gallery glinting in his hand, its weight a symbol of the final knot in this tangled mystery. Hastings, at his side, grips a poker from the fireplace, his face tense. "Poirot, this key, it's for the attic chest again, isn't it? Are we finally catching our spider?" Poirot's green eyes gleam with certainty. "Oui, mon ami. Tonight, we end the delusion. The little grey cells have woven the threads together, and the truth will stand revealed. Poirot gathers the household in the drawing room, the fire casting long shadows across the tapestries that seem to pulse with secrets. Lady Eleanor sits rigidly, her silver hair catching the light like a halo of guilt. Victor Voss slouches, a cigarette dangling, his eyes darting nervously. Amelia Crowe clutches her handkerchief, her face pale as moonlight. Professor Reed adjusts his spectacles, muttering about mythic vengeance, while Bessie hovers near the door, her apron twisted in her hands. Poirot holds up the key, his voice commanding the room. Mesdames et messieurs, this key unlocks more than a chest. It unlocks the truth. Dr. Crowe's fate, the golden threads, the vials of delusion, all lead to one among you. Tonight, Hercule Poirot names the spider. He begins with a recap of the clues, his words precise as a loom's shuttle. The golden threads, laced with a hallucinogenic distillate, were no accident. They induced visions, spiders, whispers, to cloud the mind. The torn tapestry hid a letter of blackmail. The silk glove, the shattered vial, the fallen chandelier, all were acts to distract or destroy evidence. And Dr. Crowe, who uncovered a smuggling scandal tied to Sir Reginald Voss's fortune, was silenced. But by whom? The room is silent, every eye on Poirot. He turns to Eleanor. Madame Voss, you admitted to sedating Dr. Crowe in the gardener's cottage, believing you protected your son and the Voss name. But you did not move him after, did you? Eleanor shakes her head, her voice trembling. No, Monsieur Poirot. I found him gone, his jacket torn. I thought he'd fled. Poirot nods, then faces Victor. Monsieur Voss, you argued with Crowe over his inquiries. Your key opened the attic chest, revealing the journal of your father's crimes. Did you seek to bury them? Victor's face reddens. I told you, I didn't touch him. I wanted to sell this place, not kill for it. Poirot's gaze shifts to Amelia, shifts to Madame Crowe. You searched for your husband's notes, fearing his exposure of the Voss scandal would ruin you both. The glove was found in your room, yet you deny it. Amelia's voice cracks. It's not mine. Someone planted it. Poirot nods, then looks at Reed. Professor, your obsession with Arachne's myth cloaked a keen interest in the Voss ledgers. Did you help conceal their secrets? Reed sputters. I'm a scholar, not a murderer. Finally, Poirot turns to Bessie, who shrinks under his gaze. Mademoiselle, you carried food to Crowe, saw more than you admitted. You found the threatening letter. Who gave it to you? Bessie's tears spill, but Poirot raises a hand, his voice softening. Fear not, mademoiselle. You are not the spider. He pauses, letting the tension build, then announces, the true culprit is Professor Elias Reed. The room gasps. Reed's spectacles slip, his face paling. Preposterous, he cries, but Poirot presses on. You, monsieur, wove this web. The golden threads, the vials, the glove, all your work. You studied the Voss silk's properties, knew its hallucinogenic power. You laced the manor's air with it, inducing delusions to discredit Crowe's findings. You moved him from the cottage, hid him, and staged the torn jacket to suggest his death. Poirot paces, his words relentless. The journal revealed your motive. You were not just a scholar, you were Sir Reginald's silent partner, a descendant of Leeway's agent, entitled to a share of the smuggling profits. Crowe's research threatened to expose you, cutting off your claim. You argued with him the night he vanished, as Bessie overheard. You used the passages, the loom, the tapestries to plant clues, framing Amelia with the glove, Eleanor with the threats, the chandelier, your attempt to scare me away. Reed stammers, "You have no proof." Poirot holds up the key. "This, found in the gallery, fits a lockbox in your room, where I suspect we'll find more vials and your correspondence with Li Wei's heirs." He signals Hastings, who bars the door. "But where is Dr. Crow?" Poirot asks. Reed's defiance crumbles, and he slumps. "He's alive," he mutters, "in the old mill, beyond the woods. I kept him drugged, hoping he'd retract his claims." Poirot dispatches Hastings and Victor to the mill, where they find Dr. Crow, weak but alive, bound in a hidden room surrounded by golden threads. Amelia rushes to him, sobbing with relief. Reed, cornered, confesses fully. He used the silk's distillate to manipulate the guests, hoping to protect his family's secret wealth. The glove was a misstep, stolen from Amelia's room to shift blame. Bessie, coerced by Reed's threats, hid evidence out of fear for her job. As Reed is led away by the local constable, summoned by Poirot, the manor exhales, its secrets laid bare. Eleanor thanks Poirot, her voice heavy with shame. "I should have stopped Reginald's dealings long ago." Poirot bows. "Madame, the truth mends what delusion frays." To Hastings he adds, "The little grey cells, mon ami, they never fail." As dawn breaks, Poirot and Hastings prepare to leave, the manor's shadows fading. "A tangled web, Hastings," Poirot says, "but order is restored." They step into the morning, the fog lifting to reveal a world made clear.